says, "Can I get your photo?" So good.
Okay, so the quickest way to break this down before we show you a good jump out at me here as a photographer is there's no space between her limbs anywhere. It doesn't matter what your figure is, the second you put your limbs close to your body, it disappears. You have no figure and you just become a lump of fabric. So the very first thing that has to happen is her arms need to come out away from her sides.
It's amazing.
And this is going to create clothing and skin so that you know that those things are two different things. Second of all, aside from photography composition and this being incredibly boring, the fact that all of her weight is distributed evenly and right next to each other on her feet is going to create an incredibly boring photo and also an awkward photo. So she needs to separate the balance between her 2 feet. So this is better, and she's shifted her weight to one side. However, I don't know about you guys, 90% of the time, you don't really want to be facing a camera directly. With standing photos, you pretty much always, given a couple exceptions, want to create a 3/4 angle for a camera. You don't want to face it directly. You want your hips to be 3/4, and then you can still face the camera as long as the rest of your body is at an angle that's away from the camera. And then she put one foot in front of the other. This just creates depth and dimension in your photos. Is this pose still kind of janky? Yeah, but if you're in a pinch and it's a hall photo and someone wants you to take a photo, instead of defaulting to this, you can default to this. Or this, or this. Exactly. As long as you have space between your limbs and you're shifting your weight constantly between your feet, you're gonna get a decent standing pose. But,
so again, some of the main tips that you want to keep in mind when it comes to standing poses. Again, creating separation, it helps you take up more space and it just looks a little more eye-catching and impressive. A lot of us just naturally go like that, and it looks very rigid and claw-like. So one of the best ways to avoid that is move into the gesture and then let your hands relax. We kind of refer to this as the Disney princess.
It's like a bounce.
Where you're like, beep.
You always want to come out of the movement instead of going into it, if that makes sense. So even for Farad, when I do the big wide poses, I don't just stick my hand out because then I look like I'm cupping the air and it's really awkward. So half the time I actually stand and come out so that my hands have finished the motion and they look a lot more natural.
A gesture or movement or any sort of thing will always look best if it is a natural movement as opposed to something that you purposefully put yourself into. It's a little confusing, but try it your next time if someone says pretend you're going to step into the pose or you're taking a step. Don't just stand like this, literally do a 1, 2, 3 and step in and brace yourself. So lastly, like she mentioned when we were doing the demonstration, because look, wow, we're all sitting right now. But there's a lot of things to keep in mind when you're sitting, and the biggest one is do not slouch.
Or actually sit, as we'll get into.
But one of the biggest tendencies that I found as a photographer, not just a cosplayer, is when I put someone in a chair and there's a back to it, they immediately want to lean back against that. And it just, no one's going to look good like that regardless. I think we can all attest to that. So make sure that you're not slouching back in the chair, you're sitting up straight. I think we've all been yelled at by parents or guardians, pretend there's a plank of wood attached to your back and don't break that piece of wood. So another thing, break up your joints. This sounds, again, very violent and visceral, but what you're trying to achieve is you never want a limb out like that. You never want it to be completely rigid. If there is a joint in your limb or somewhere, your hips, etc., make sure that it is doing something.
And just think of yourself like one of those really, really awkward figure model dolls that everyone has, the little wooden guys that you just move around, and just move yourself that way, because that's where you can visualize what things would need to be bent or stay rigid. Obviously, there will be exceptions to this rule. There are some characters that are just freaking weird, that have terrible posture, like Elle from Death Note, or that have absolutely strange, cockeyed limbs because they are a doll. There's always going to be exceptions, but as a general rule, this is what you're
right. And that's something we do want to mention really quickly when it comes to everything we're discussing. These rules can be broken if you're doing so intentionally. For someone like, again, Elle, or if there's another scary character where they're supposed to be hunched over, then clearly you don't want to be proper posture. But for the most part, these will help improve your photos for general purposes.
Right. Chair and plop all of your weight down exactly in a chair and lean back. Nothing looks good, first and foremost. Everything is fanning out and nothing is in terms of garment construction, your costume is going to be laying incredibly awkward. Then because I'm leaned back in the chair, it's just this silhouette is really awkward. of the time when I'm sitting in a chair for photos, I'm really squatting and I'm not really sitting. And the chair, I'm way out here.
Perching on the edge is your best friend.
You never want to not have a gap between your body and the chair. Let me tell you. You will look at that photo and be like, ew, I fused myself with the chair.
And one of the biggest things, when you sit down, regardless of what body type you are, what your body looks like, when we sit, we naturally, our skin does the roll thing, and there's nothing wrong with rolls, but if you personally are not happy with that look, or there's some other area of your body that you're not comfortable with showing, you can hide that with an arm across your torso or a prop in front of you. A lot of the time when, for example, some of our friends do lingerie photo shoots and they get that little dip here, and personally,
I think it's cute as hell, but whatever, it's
but
fine.
if they don't like that, they'll take their tail or a sheet or something and just have it going over that area. So there's nothing wrong with using your costume or your other lens to hide areas that you personally find unflattering.
Yep, and that goes also for like angles, because there have been times where like when we shot Gilgamesh and I had this really sweet idea to like, which is the most awful idea I've ever had, for her to shoot up at me because it would create more of like a powerful presence. And then we shot up and I looked like frumpy,
and the way you were sitting on the chair.
And I also
like
I had a white shirt that just like 15 times crumpled in on itself, and I had like my leg out like this, and like, oh, I look so powerful. And I look back at it, I was like, Nina, why did we do this? So it also it will benefit you to try it, to test it out, do a test shot, check the back of the camera preview, and if in RAW you're already like, then it ain't worth editing, and definitely adjust your position.
And the last tip for sitting is make sure that your weight is distributed towards the hip that is closest to the camera. This just looks more flattering on everybody. It creates a more interesting character. But when you have two characters, you want to keep in mind what their dynamic is as well. Like, are they best friends? Are they enemies? Are they
Have you forced a relationship on them in your head?
The way two best friends are going to pose in a photo is going to be very, very different than, I don't know, the girl who was betrayed by her best friend and he killed her dad and it's really tragic. Like, they're not going to be all, hey best friend, killed my dad.
Right, so that also goes just for the, like, in terms of like Tokia and Otoya, for instance, there's a very clear power dynamic in terms of who's going to be in what position of their photography. So to keep that in mind when you're doing things with, even like with sports anime and stuff like that, if there's a rivalry and one character would feel like inferior or superior, you want to create that power dynamic with.
You need to keep in mind the pose for the other person too.
Look at how cute Suwon and Yona are.
So sad.
All right.
Play around with eye contact, because the way the characters look at each other or don't look at each other can imply a lot about their relationship.
Yeah, and
So, do not do the same pose. This is an exception for things like idol anime. If you're all going to be posing with the microphone up like this, obviously you want to be doing the same pose. But again, Mika and you posing together would probably both not want to be standing there crossing their arms, because it creates that sense of, was that intentional? Did we just accidentally both cross our arms? So always when you're posing with another person, kind of side-eye and double-check what they're doing. Make sure that your feet are not in the exact same position. You're doing something different with your arms and torsos.
And an easy way, even if you are going to be doing the same position, the easiest way to create a separate one is to touch the person. Because now I'm clearly in a completely, even if we're both standing with the same weight distribution, by attaching myself a certain way, it's created a dynamic between the two characters, as opposed to just both of us standing like this and looking at the camera.
So one other way that you can vary things is by varying your levels and positions. Again, if your characters are different heights and you and your friend are not, really easy to fake. And if you're doing a photo shoot, not posing in a convention hallway, chairs,
Nozaki boxes,
they are your best friend.
Yep. And in terms of levels and positions, again, this is, I think, super important in sports anime, because we have a tendency to kind of throw the entire like group together and pose like we're in high school and taking a basketball photo, and you really want to separate that in terms of like staggering. Even if it's just a duo standing next to each other, you don't want to have that same height.
And it's as simple as one person stepping forward and the other kind of being behind them just a little bit. It just creates a little more visual interest. Bring the character to life more than anything else. Everyone looks nice with a glam, bland expression, but when you're able to portray the character through your expression, that's what will take your photography to the next level.
And we want to keep in mind, now that we're getting into expression and then eventually action, that 90% of the time this is going to be better suited for experimentation within a infinite time frame. So in the hallway of a con is not a good place to practice this, especially if you're somebody who gets slightly embarrassed if more than one person is witnessing you make a really, really weird face. So keep in mind that expression and action photos are really better suited when you have time. It's you and the photographer. You can do it 400 times, as we'll
There's
get
a couple
into.
things that are easy, like yelling.
Yelling, I mean, yeah, anybody can yell.
We are all filled with rage, I'm sure. So being able to yell on command is not difficult. But more deep, profound emotions like angst, hurt, that deep suffering, anguish, like you're gonna need to take a little bit extra time to get into that. And in the middle of the hallway at ConceCon, when there's 500 people surrounding you might struggle with that, and that's okay.
Right, exactly. Okay, so
Directly when it comes to your face, do not like face head on with the camera unless it is intentional. If there's something symmetrical you want to show with your makeup or a tiara or headpiece, then of course face straight on, but otherwise you always want to tilt your face just a little bit, play around with angles. The number one thing, and the photographer really needs to worry about this more than you do, is you don't want your nose to break the line of your face. So your photographer should be able to pick that out for you, but it's something that you don't want to over-rotate, especially because you don't want to show the whites of your eyes.
And what we mean by that is if you're, a lot of times in photography, we like to create that like looking off into the distance expression or looking down. And a big mistake is like if the photographer is right here and he wants to just look up and out, you look all the way over here and all you see is like the creepy like whites of your eyes. Or you want to look down and it wants to be somber, but you look down so far that it just looks like you're closing your eyes. So be careful and aware that things should be more, if this camera's here, you only really need to look up and out this far. You don't need to go all the way over there with your eyeballs. We're not like owls. Just completely spin around. Exactly.
Another thing when it comes to posing your face is you always want to make sure to bring your chin forward.
And a big thing with this, because this is the bane of my existence, and if you've ever watched a vlog and you could hear Malo